There we go. Fantastic. Let's see. Yeah, do you win? Boo. Bollocks. There we go. Yes. Hello, everyone. We will give people 10 minutes as usual. Suppose I could show myself. Oh, what now? Go away. Right, fine. There, I've got it plugged in there. Oh, yeah, go over there. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay, let's bring everything up, shall we? Yes, home. I know I'm live. I clicked the button. Oh! Hello, Divinia. Where be you? Oh, you be here. You are here. Hello. Ah, motherfucker. Give me a minute. You got that. Ah. Oh god, you're heating up. Let me put you up again a minute. Up a bit. Is that better? Hello? Do. A little. Interesting. Do I need to increase myself? Is that better? Do. Studio. Oh, weird. Huh. Go live. I've got a microphone. Sitting right there. To my left. Right here. Give me a minute. There we go. What the frick? Huh. Curious. Huh. 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 Curious. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there I am. Right, let's bring up my chat, shall we? hell? Mm, mm, mm. On my channel. There we go. Did it? Oh. Odd. Really odd. Says it's plugged in. Oi. Oi, oi. Yeah. Curious about that. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, yeah. People alive. Let's just go that. Forever. Oh my god. Copy text. Paste. Ta-da! I am waiting. Hello. I've seen if I could rejig that a bit. Does sound better? Hang on, is that you? It is you! Oi, oi! We have a Jim speak. And we have a couple of Burks. Oi to the oi! Hello, Jacqueline. Hello, my dear. All the lovelies are in. Hello, everyone. Bit of procedural to get over with. Don't worry, we will not be watching all of it because it is mind-numbingly boring. Just like most procedural things are in life. Are you not? No obligation to follow. Of course not. Oh God, that's what I wanted to check. Lynn, give me a minute. Ah, right, it did 23 minutes. 23 minutes before ads. So what's that? Oh, right. So, say again just before I've passed. No. Out loud. Oh, fucking hell! I completely forgot, my dear. System back. What time's that? Oh God, it's middle of the afternoon for you. Sorry, darling. I am so used to being UK coded for most of what I've been doing recently. Sorry, Shanna. Oops. So I won't say watch out for the tardigrades because you're not in the void, you're at work. I hope everything is going well on your first day, darling. I'll be here for a couple of hours. I'm just doing onboarding shit. Yeah. Well, that is your first day. So yeah, hope everything is going well and hope the tedium isn't too much doing the onboarding. I know what my first days were like in jobs. My first day working for BT was literally, here's your headphone, plug it in there, talk to people. Well, people were calling in, yelling at me. Hit the like. Yes, I hit the like. It would actually help me. What I would actually need, people. I need people. I am so far off fucking 1,000, it's mad. I don't know how people are meant to get up to 1,000, especially being a leftist, on YouTube. I know where they're moving to. Oh. I know where they're moving to. I know exactly what the industrialist. Well, I know where that is. Looks like a decent view out of that window. It won't be if it's pissing down, which it more than likely will be at some point because it's Scotland. It rains. Quite heavily, mostly.
For those of you just rejoining us, we will be now heading to the Scottish Parliament for the election of the First Minister.
Hold on. Give me a minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. The next item of business is the selection of the Parliament's nominee as First Minister. A note explaining the procedure to be followed this afternoon has been made available to all members. I've received 6 valid nominations for selection of the Parliament's nominee for First Minister and will now announce the nominations in alphabetical order. The nominations are Alex Cole-Hamilton, Russell Finlay, Gillian Mackay, Malcolm Offord, Anna Sarwar and John Swinney. I will ask each nominee to speak in support of their candidacy for up to 5 minutes, and after the nominees have spoken, members will be asked to cast their vote for the preferred candidate. A separate vote will be called for each candidate, and members can only vote once. When all voting has been completed, any member who has not yet voted will be invited to cast a vote to abstain. There will be a short suspension while the result is verified. I will then announce the results of voting. A candidate will be elected if an overall majority is obtained. If no majority is obtained, the candidate or candidates with the smallest number of votes will be eliminated. I would ask members to note that if we have a vote between only 2 candidates, all that's required is a simple majority, one of the candidates to be elected. Members may wish to record an abstention, and no account of those votes will be taken in establishing whether a simple majority has been achieved. We will then proceed to a fuller round of voting. So, for up to 5 minutes, I call on Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And for the first time, can I welcome you to your new place. Presiding Officer, I rise to speak to my candidacy for First Minister of Scotland in an atmosphere rather of hope more than expectation, because elections are a time of choosing. This no different than the last. But the last Scottish election that we have been through was in itself a time of choosing. It was an inflection point at which all of us are offered our instructions by the people who send us to this place. And it also represented the final spoke on the wheel of revival for my party. I'm heartily glad of that, coming as it did after the best general election result for our party in 100 years, big council gains across the chamber. The Scottish elections last week represented a massive leap forward for the Scottish Liberal Democrats, both in terms of vote share and in terms of the number of seats returned. When looking at the constituency map of Scotland, Presiding Officer, we are the second party of Scotland. We've won in places that we have never, ever won before, and we have taken a massive leap forward and the best result for my party in nearly 20 years. And the measure of that achievement, I think, was summed up well by the Times when they wrote, and I quote, that in the final analysis, it was the Liberal Democrats who perhaps did more than any other party to thwart the nationalist march to 65 seats. Don't take it from me. This is the story of this election, Presiding Officer. As much as I respect John Swinney, he has only known regression in his time as party leader of the SNP. He has only gone backwards in his efforts and experienced electoral decline. And as the old Parliament rose and we were gavelled out of session, he could not have been clearer. He stated for the whole country to hear that if he was to achieve the mandate necessary to go about calling for a second independence referendum, then he needed the public at large to award his party with an overall majority. He fell well short of that. And in large part, it was because of Liberal Democrat gains in the villages and towns of this country, he was rendered unable to deliver what he asked the people to give him. As such, I ask that we as a Parliament now lay those divisive issues aside, that we put talk of the Constitution in the deep freeze and instead focus on the instructions that the people who sent us to this place have been manifestly clear that they want us to focus on.
Michael! Hello, Michael.
Which is not a crisis in our hospitals, but actually born of the fact that there is such a paucity of social care in our communities that on any given night in Scotland, 2,000 of our fellow Scots are stuck in hospital, like Margaret McGill, who I raised many times in the last session, unable to go home without adequate care, to receive the...
You're elected. You didn't need to keep on going on about Margaret. All right, Alex? Sorry if this hurts anyone's ears. I'm going to have to blast it for a for about 10-15 minutes.
Home, but well enough to do so, stuck in that awful limbo, which leads to cancelled operations, which leads to corridor care in our A&E because people cannot be discharged into the wider hospital. The fact that we all have constituents who've come to see us, sometimes in great distress because their young person or they themselves have been unable to get access to the diagnostics they need to diagnose particularly things around child and adolescent mental health or neurodiversity, told in parts of Edinburgh that they will have to wait 7 years for that. Or they're receiving care in crumbling hospitals. They're no longer fit for purpose and in desperate need, not just of refurbishment, but in renewal in its entirety. We want to focus on lifting up...
Block grant went down. Now, if I had my fucking way, and I am in a party, by the way, everyone, haha, I can suggest raising taxes on rich. No. We can actually do that. We can kind of fiddle with it a bit. No. Or for a more concrete thing to do for the cost of living for people, Scottish Grid. I'd like that. It's good. We've got comrades in. It's brilliant. Love it. Yes, energy policy. But as you can tell, Westminster's in a bit of a tizzy. Alex Delgado? Hello, Alex Delgado. Welcome. You're on my YouTube. I'm Katie Marshall, 4340, Scottish disabled Marxist streamer who primarily who tries to talk about health and disability and benefits. But politics do be happening. Don't get me wrong, I'm politically motivated. So politics is quite a big thing in this channel.
Scottish education. We heard just this week the awful results of an EIS survey that shows far too many of our teachers at primary and secondary level are assaulted on a daily basis in their place of work. We want to support them by taking mobile phones out of classrooms and putting 2,000 pupil support.
Oh, don't you worry, Jacqueline. Self-care is good care. Stay hydrated. Summer fruit. Self-care is good care. Take your meds if you need to take any. Stay based. Free Palestine. And keep an eye on Makerfield, I guess. And look, Reform, they've put in a plumber. Ah. Bit on the nose. Just saying.
Assistance in to make sure that those newly qualified teachers have a job to go to, a stable, permanent job to go to. We want to drive down the cost of living by instructing an immediate programme of emergency home insulation to make sure that the coldest homes in Scotland, those most at risk of fuel poverty, are ready for that increase in the future.
Delinking the price of electricity generation from the price of fossil fuel, that would help. Can anyone hear me in Westminster? I will just keep on banging on about this. I'm going to be like a broken fucking record. You charge us to put the shit on the fucking grid. Give us the connections that we fucking need. And give us the rights. Devolve energy policy up to Holyrood. Thank you. Ran over. I could quite possibly lose my fucking voice screaming about this for here till kingdom come.
the price cap that we heard about today, and that those already at risk of fuel poverty, because they don't have a price cap to protect them in terms of heating oil, are protected with insulation as much as we can do to help them. And we need to get Scotland moving again. The early days of this election campaign, presiding officer, were bedevilled by a ferry crisis that brought our island and our coastal communities to their knees at a time when they needed our support. For all of these reasons, elections are about
He's got a
choosing.
point on that
We
one.
offer a vision of hope and of change with fairness at its heart, and I humbly submit my candidacy for First Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Cole-Hamilton. 4 minutes 57 seconds. I'm impressed at your timing there. I now call on Russell Finlay for 5 minutes.
I can beat that. Okay. Congratulations on your election. I suspect today's proceedings won't be quite
What do you mean
as
you can beat
exciting,
that?
because, of course, this is largely a foregone conclusion. But I've put my name forward because it gives me the opportunity to put forward my vision for a better Scotland, for a Scottish Parliament that works on behalf of the people who put us here. John Swinney spent the entire election saying that he was going to win, and with a majority.
That's what the polls were saying, Russell. He was campaigning to make it so. Don't get me wrong, he was campaigning for that. He wasn't the one actually saying it. The polls were saying that there was a distinct possibility that they could have got the 65 that you needed for the majority. And I was very hopeful that we would have got that.
And he said that winning a majority would be the trigger for another independence referendum. His relentless obsession with breaking up the United Kingdom is not what people want to hear. We know what matters most to the people of Scotland: the ever-rising cost of living, Scotland's stagnant economy, an NHS in a near-permanent state of crisis, the impact of immigration on strained public services. What they don't want is a distracting and painful return to the arguments of the past. Thankfully, John Swinney didn't get the majority he said was in the bag, and my party played its part in stopping him. The blue wall stayed blue as we won a hat-trick of seats across the south of Scotland. However, I was bitterly disappointed to lose so many valuable and respected colleagues in my party and beyond. And this is a very different Parliament to the one that came before. And when John Swinney is inevitably elected as First Minister today, he has some big questions to answer. He said he'll work with Sinn Féin to break up the UK, and that victims of IRA terrorism should, quote, move on. And I wonder if he understands the hurt that those comments have caused. And will John Swinney continue to put constitutional paralysis above good governance? When Scots tell him that a referendum is not a priority, as they did in another poll published today, will he listen? Presiding Officer, even without a majority, I fear that he won't listen, because independence will remain the only issue that really matters to him and his party. So here's what
It's one of the core tenets of the fucking party, you fucking wank. Scotland for us. Scotland for the Scots. Independence so we can make our own decisions. Not be dictated to, ruled by, and fucking otherwise ignored or fucking shat upon by Westminster and a variety of ghouls in different colours. Fuzzmas, rejoice! Fuzzmas in the chat. Hello, comrade. It's the vote. I'm going to listen to each of their pitches to become First Minister. But a foregone conclusion. I've already watched this. I watched the 2 hours because punishing myself. It was not punishing. It was more tedious than anything, really. No.
sensible and responsible First Minister should focus on. Grow the economy. Back business. Don't attack business. Cut taxes for those who work hard and do the right thing. Fix our NHS, schools and other public services. On the economy, let's start with Scotland's world-leading oil and gas sector. The SNP opposes new drilling. John Swinney's party agrees with Labour that oil and gas should remain under the North Sea. Thousands of jobs are being lost. And this is absurd, especially in today's volatile world. Our country is going to need oil and gas for decades, not just for energy, but for manufacturing. And I asked John Swinney, does it really make sense for Norway to extract oil and gas from the same basin that his party wants to leave untapped? I think he knows the answer to that, and I make this promise today. The Scottish Conservatives will continue to stand up for oil and gas. We would get Britain drilling again. People in the North East know that we are the strongest challengers to the SNP, and we came within just over 1,000 votes of beating Stephen Flynn. And if pro-UK voters unite behind the Scottish Conservatives in Aberdeen South in a few weeks' time, we can beat the SNP again. Presiding Officer, we all have a duty to act in the best interests of the people of Scotland. This Parliament has an opportunity to transform Scotland over the next 5 years. A more dynamic and more prosperous Scotland should be our shared goal. A country of opportunity with more well-paid jobs, of low taxes and
taking
less
it well,
red
isn't
tape,
he?
where hard work and aspiration are rewarded. So let's harness our proud spirit of innovation to get Scotland working again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Finlay. I now call on Gillian Mackay. Up to 5 minutes, please.
Thanks, Presiding Officer, and could I congratulate you on your appointment. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that unless something dramatic happens, I should get 15 votes, and I doubt I'll be First Minister this afternoon. But despite that, there is something to be hopeful about. The electorate has returned not only the biggest ever independent supporting majority, but also the biggest ever majority for parties that are socially progressive. Those who lost in numbers at this election were the ones chasing those votes to the right, and that has to inform what we do this session. We acknowledge that the SNP won this election and should have the right to form a government, and we will work on issues with them to make Scotland a fairer, greener and independent country. But we'll also hold that government to account to make sure that ambition matches delivery. We want to see a debate in the future of Scotland as an independent nation, and I hope the First Minister will keep his promise to bring that forward as soon as possible. We've seen how badly Westminster has let Scotland down, making things much more difficult, not just for this Parliament, but for the people of Scotland. We were promised big things in the wake of 2014, but what followed was Brexit, a decade of Westminster failure, a merry-go-round of Prime Ministers and ongoing climate breakdown. People's lives have gotten materially worse, and Scotland must have our chance to choose differently. For the Scottish Greens, independence isn't an end goal in itself. It's a tool that we can use to make Scotland better, where democracy and decision-making is closer to people. And that's why, alongside that push for a referendum, we must use all the powers we have to already to make Scotland a better place to live right now. We all heard during this election campaign the immediate and real impact the cost of living crisis is having on people's lives. There are a whole host of solutions which not only put money back into people's pockets, but help tackle the climate emergency at the same time. Providing everyone with free bus travel will put money back in people's pockets while moving more people onto public transport. We've seen the success of under-22s free bus, and making sure particularly those who are commuting could leave the car at home would help to tackle transport emissions, which we've historically struggled to make a dent in. We're seeing other countries take this step in recent months, and we should absolutely be doing the same. Families are also seeing a large portion of their income being taken up with childcare. Unfortunately, we no longer live in a time where families can survive on one income, so good quality, affordable childcare is a must. This, for us, has to be a universal offering, giving every child the same start and, crucially, making sure that the funding follows the child. Supporting families, and particularly women, to be able to work with good quality, reliable childcare will absolutely help tackle child poverty. Crucially, we need to look at our tax system and how we tax wealth in particular to make sure we can afford these measures that will support so many across society. Making sure that everyone can have a home to call their own, that they can heat that home, that we have good quality public services, that nurses and teachers are paid well, and that we deliver that fairer society. Tax is how we fund these things that are for the common good, and those with the most should contribute the most. It's clear the hopeful vision put forward by the Scottish Greens at this election resonates with the hundreds of thousands of Scots who voted for us. Above all else, perhaps, what people want to see now are actions which make Scotland a fairer, kinder, more welcoming country. Not only do we have a large pro-independence majority in this chamber, but we have a pro-Europe majority and a pro-immigration majority. This is a parliament which not only recognises the contribution of all Scots, old and new, but says Scotland's future is one which looks outwards, to our neighbours and friends across seas and borders. The people of Scotland need this Parliament to work collaboratively in the face of unprecedented crises to make people's lives better, both here and around the world. The Scottish Greens are ready to do that. Scotland is ready, so let's make that happen.
Thank you. And I now call on Malcolm Offord for up to 5 minutes. Mr Offord.
Presiding Officer, welcome to your place and congratulations on your appointment. You will be well aware that 250 years ago, Kirkcaldy-born Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations. And today, Smith is revered around the world as the father of modern capitalism, explaining how a country can be prosperous and fair for the benefit of all its people. Sadly, in 25 years of devolution, Scotland has turned her back on Adam Smith.
Adam Smith hates landlords. He was okay to a certain extent with some redistributive financing, essentially. So, all you use are quoting him wrong. Just saying. Don't get me wrong, there's certain parts of that book, I've tried to read it, I can't do it, I just end up yeeting it across the living room. I sold my copy. Not first, not signed, obviously. He was alive a while ago. But yeah, I can't read it. I really should try to read it. Know your enemy and all that.
All we have seen from the SNP is record highs in tax and spend and grievance stoked against the rest of the United Kingdom for cynical political gain. And now, in partnership with the Greens, we're seeing the politics of envy take root. Politics that maybe meant well, but which paid no attention to perverse incentives in housing, welfare and regulation, which have instead made housing scarce, driven businesses bust, put workers out of jobs and reduced tax revenues impacting public services across the board. With budgets under pressure, we've seen those who work and those who venture their own savings to create businesses and jobs being overburdened with the ever-mounting bill. They were, at first, those who could afford to pay a little more. But as the bill has grown, they've been asked to pay more and more, with less and less to show for it in return.
Free prescriptions, free eye care, so you get your eye test done. It reduced, free. These were free. My shades I paid £75 for, but those were free. I've got a bus pass because disabled. More NHS dentists. More funding is needed for the NHS, obviously, we know this. No country is perfect in their healthcare system, obviously. But yeah, marginally better up here. Yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it, Fosmos? Yeah.
Bureaucracy has bloated. The engines of our prosperity are straining, and we find ourselves punishing those who aspire, those who are ambitious for themselves, their families and their communities, simply for trying to enjoy a good, decent life. This cannot continue. It must not continue if we wish to build a prosperous Scotland that works for all. We cannot be led by this ideology of impoverishment. If we want Scotland to have world-class public services, to hum with the whirring of industry and the buzz of thriving high streets, and to put a good life within the reach of everyone.
What industry? She put peak to that. What planet is this idiot on?
Every Scot. When I went down to London as a young Scot to make something of myself, with just one suitcase, my rugby boots and £2,000 in debt, I went with true treasure. I was a product of the very best of Scottish education provided freely by the state. And I went with these most valuable of treasures, Scottish values of hard work, endeavour and honesty. I do not want to see young Scots have to go to London to make their fortune as I and many others did. I want them to have ample opportunities to stay in Scotland and prosper. But regardless of how they make their way in the world, I want them to go with the same true treasure, the true wealth that I was given. The kind of state education that Scotland gave me is lamentably rare today, too often having to be bought, whether through paying for a private education or by buying a house in the right state school catchment area.
We've got free university. I was a little bit worried that a lot of people, they would have voted, they would have been putting in their manifestos, the parties, not the voters. Either fiddling with or completely getting rid of free university. I got that. I was lucky. Just need
standards
on,
and disciplines to so drastically slip as the SNP has in pursuit of ideological fads has been to undermine the wealth and opportunity of young Scots. Real life is about incentives, and canny Scots...
Yeah. Mentioning housing. Says man who owns multiple houses. More social rent? More council building? That might be an idea. Not that he'd fucking promote that.
Will always work hard if you incentivise them, but not in a broken system of high taxation and welfare dependency that scarcely makes it worthwhile.
Fuck off.
Meanwhile, these inherently Scottish values of hard work, endeavour and honesty are being actively discouraged.
He's talking about the Protestant work ethic. Fuck off with that Protestant work ethic. I'm disabled. I can't go back into work. And no amount of condoling or fucking forcing of me is going to make it any more likely. Take my money off me, I don't fucking care. Well, he is a Tory. He's a Thatcherite.
By this rotten system at every turn, with grievance and envy stoked in their place. If we want a Scotland of endeavour and enterprise, if we want Scots to enjoy prosperity and plenty, we must urgently change course. Surely all the proof we need that this current system is broken lies in the fact that 2 million Scots did not vote in this 2026 election, a staggering 47% of the electorate. Compare that to 16% non-voters in the 2014 Indie Ref. The incumbent parties in this chamber should take a good, hard look at themselves. How can Scotland be led by a First Minister from the SNP whose share of the vote fell by another 10%? Consider the decline in votes for the separatist parties combined, from 1.6 million in 2014 to 1.3 million in 2021 to 1 million this year. How can that ever be considered a mandate for separation? And how can Scotland be led by a First Minister from Scottish Labour, whose steady decline can be traced from 56 MSPs in 1999 to 17 today, and whose vote share has halved from 32% to 16%?
The voting system, and we fucking despise the unionist bastards like yous. And when there's chaos in the cost of living and shenaniganery down in Westminster, again, I can see why people are turned off. I do, I understand. It's depressing to me. I want turnout to be high, so we have a huge mandate to say, give us our fucking country, please. Union of equals, everyone, apparently. I don't feel very equal. Just saying, I don't get any of the policies I want.
No. Scotland deserves a First Minister who wishes to build opportunity and prosperity for every Scot, and the only party in this chamber with that agenda is Reform UK.
Thank you. I now call Anna Sauer up to 5 minutes, please.
President Officer, I congratulate you on your election. I rise to make this speech in the knowledge that we already know the outcome of today's vote. I congratulate John Swinney and the SNP on their election win on May the 7th. My party fought the election on the belief that Scotland needs change. It's an election and an argument that we didn't win. That's disappointing, and I don't pretend otherwise, but I think it's important to convey what I still believe
personally
today.
are not like Tanas.
Our Parliament and our country does need to change, and we have a collective responsibility to represent and serve the people. And in the current climate, I believe we have a responsibility to bring our country together and to take on the politics of fear and blame. Because while the election result is settled, the challenges facing Scotland are not. The need to tackle deep-seated issues in Scottish society remain as urgent today, and this Parliament must rise to that challenge. We need a government that will focus relentlessly on the things that matter: growing our economy, supporting our high streets, driving down waiting lists, improving access to primary care, providing dignity in the delivery of social care, making life more affordable, giving every young person the chance to succeed, and supporting our communities to feel safer and stronger. In doing that, we must also recognise the mood in the country as it is, not as we might wish it to be. During this election campaign, one word came up again and again: scunnered. People are frustrated, angry and tired, and they're tired of political arguments that seem disconnected from their lives. And that should concern every single one of us. Because if people lose faith not only in one party or one government, but in the ability of politics itself to improve their lives, then that not only undermines our democracy, but it opens up opportunities for those that seek to divide us. Presiding Officer, half of the MSPs in this chamber have been elected to our Parliament for the first time. This is a historic opportunity for them and for all of us, for us to demonstrate either the best of Scotland or the worst of our politics, to change the culture positively or negatively, to achieve greater cooperation or greater conflict, to trade in bigger ideas or bigger insults. So I would say to the new members and the old, let's not miss this opportunity to do what's best and right for Scotland. That means confronting the politics of fear and blame, not inflaming it. We may come from different political sides, but that doesn't mean we have to dislike or hate each other. We must confront the idea that if someone believes something different, sounds different, or looks different, then they somehow have to be feared. Of course, call out and take action on wrongdoing. Yes, have big debates, and yes, confront big issues, but don't generalise, marginalise and demonise, because they might just seem like words in here to each and every one of us, but they are lived consequences.
Tell the Home Secretary. It literally sent this speech down to her. That is all.
Consequences for people out there, because we must remain a nation that looks at its neighbour with compassion, not with suspicion. That's the Scotland we were when my grandfather arrived here in Lossiemouth in the 1940s, and it must be the Scotland we are today. But that also means taking responsibility, not always looking for someone else to blame, because the idea that someone or somewhere else is to blame for our problems, that idea that somehow everything would be fine if it wasn't for them over there, that too is dangerous. Because I believe our country is a country full of talent, full of compassion, ambition and decency. And I'm sure this Parliament is also full of talent, compassion, ambition and decency. Because people out there all want the same basic things. They want our public services to work. They want opportunity to be shared. They want communities to be supported. And they want a government to match the efforts they make in their lives every single day. So while I will not win this vote today, I will continue to argue for the kind of Scotland I grew up in and the kind of Scotland I want my children to grow up into. One that's based in an all of us, not an us versus them. Because our duty, every single one of us, is to come to this Parliament, to act and to serve and to deliver for the great people of Scotland. And let's get straight to work.
Thank you. I now call on John Swinney. Up to 5 minutes, please.
President, so let me begin by congratulating you on your election as our presiding officer. As we begin this new session of the Scottish Parliament, I stand before members today with a clear mandate from the people of Scotland to seek nomination as the First Minister. The election is over, the people have spoken, they have emphatically supported the Scottish National Party, and I offer to form a government to deliver on behalf of the people that we all serve. Not cautiously, not hesitantly, but with purpose, on the issues that matter most in the lives of our people. That is exactly what a government I lead will do. The challenges facing our nation are real. Families continue to feel the pressure of the cost of living. Public services continue to face significant demands. Events in Westminster and across the world continue to impact here at home, and many people are feeling the strain in their everyday lives. So this must be a Parliament and a government that meets the moment, not with incremental change, but with a clear sense of direction and an agenda that matches the ambition people have for this country. Because Scotland is a country of enormous strength and opportunity, a country with the talent, the resources and the determination, not only to react to challenges, but to overcome them. The government I lead will work to build a Scotland where families are supported through the cost of living crisis and where the pressures they face are eased, not ignored. A Scotland with a strong modern National Health Service that is accessible, resilient and there for the people when they need it. A Scotland where businesses grow, good jobs are created and economic opportunity exists in every part of our country. A Scotland with safe communities and secure energy. A Scotland that leads the way in clean renewables, protecting our environment and turning our natural advantages into lasting prosperity. A Scotland that is fairer, where we reduce poverty, tackle inequality and ensure that prosperity is shared. The government I lead will also press for the future of Scotland to be decided by the people of Scotland. The people have again returned a pro-independence majority to this Parliament, the largest ever elected. They have said with a resounding voice that decisions about Scotland's future should be taken here in Scotland. And I will ensure that the people have the right to decide on their own future. That is the agenda I offer the people of Scotland. It is ambitious, it is practical, it is ready to be delivered in this new Parliament with a new mandate and a government determined to get on with the job. I recognise, Presiding Officer, that no government delivers alone, and certainly not a government that alone does not command a majority in this Parliament. This Parliament contains strongly held and sometimes very different views, but I am confident there exists in this Parliament a majority for all of the policy proposals that I brought forward in the election. The challenge for me, which I readily accept if I am elected as First Minister, is to work in ways that enable that majority to emerge. So, in addition to setting out the policy direction of the government, that I offer to lead, I also set out a willingness to work with others in this Parliament to seek agreement on measures that will improve the lives of people in Scotland. Over my years in this Parliament, I've seen this chamber rise to that challenge. Yes, we can disagree robustly, but we can also still work together to deliver for the people of Scotland. And in that respect, I welcome the substance and the tone of Mr Sarwar's comments, because that is what Scotland needs of us at this moment. Not simply debate, but delivery. Not simply difference, but progress. And ultimately, it is by that progress that we will all be judged. Presiding Officer, I am ready to lead a government that meets this moment with clarity, energy and purpose. A government that takes action. A government that delivers. And a government that is always on Scotland's side. Presiding Officer, with the mandate we have been given, with a clear plan for the work ahead, and with a determination to deliver for the people of Scotland, I ask for the support of this Parliament to serve as Scotland's First Minister.
Thank you, and I thank each of our 6 candidates. They were all very well behaved, none of them over time, and I hope that will be a lesson to all of you in this chamber as we move forward. Before we move to the vote, there will be a short suspension to allow members to access the digital voting system. Can I urge all members to have their cards inserted in the consoles to enable you to vote? Thank you.
And thank you for staying with us. We're just back from Holyrood now after the speeches from the 6 party leaders attempting to win nomination to become First Minister of Scotland. As expected, it is expected that John Swinney will win this election due to his party's, due to him leading the largest party. However, there is still a lot to be gained from looking at the speeches from all of the candidates. Alex Cole-Hamilton spoke first for the Liberal Democrat Party, speaking of a resurgence in his party, not just in Holyrood but in West. Welcome back.
15, Malcolm Offord. 17, Anna Sarwar. 17, John Swinney. 56. 105 votes were cast, and as John Swinney has secured more than half of all the votes cast, I declare that he is now the First Minister of Scotland, and I'd like to congratulate him.
There was the round after round after round after round, and it just basically went down party lines with the, like, so because Kenny Gibson is SNP, and he's now the presiding officer. That was it, one down for the SNP, but it didn't really matter. Woohoo! Look at the mug.
I would like to congratulate the First Minister on his election, and I now call on each of the party leaders to respond. Mr Anasawa.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On behalf of the Scottish Labour Party, I congratulate John Swinney on his election as First Minister. I wish him well in office and do so sincerely. To serve as First Minister is a great privilege.
Sincerely. Say it with more derision, Anas. I dare you.
But also a profound responsibility. And to hold that office at a time of such uncertainty brings to the role an added weight and an added responsibility. And we must all collectively in this Parliament rise to the challenges facing this new session of our Parliament. And to meet the challenges before us, we will need a new spirit of unity and cooperation where we agree, not just to shout louder when we disagree. That is what the people of Scotland demand, and that is what the people of Scotland deserve from their national Parliament. Because the need for action cannot be clearer. Scotland still has an NHS under severe pressure, with patients waiting too long in pain and families struggling to access the care when they need it. Scotland still has family budgets under real strain, with too many people feeling they are paying more and getting less. And Scotland still has young people anxious about their future and communities that feel left behind by a politics that too often seems remote from their lives and the people across this country. Those are the realities facing this Parliament that has now been elected, and those realities demand seriousness from all of us. And my party and I will approach the new session of Parliament with that seriousness. Yes, we will hold the Government to account for the promises it has made. Yes, we will challenge where it falls short. And yes, we will hold its feet to the fire in the name of the people of Scotland. And of course there will be matters on which the First Minister and I profoundly disagree, and we will not be shy about saying so. That will be our responsibility to say that clearly and without hesitation. But there will also be areas where this Parliament has a duty to rise above old habits and take action where we agree to make sure we are getting things done for Scotland. This country does not need 5 more years dominated by grievance, division and fallouts, while the pressures in people's lives continue to mount. It needs a Parliament focused on delivery. It needs action to bring down waiting lists. It needs action to make life more affordable, and it needs action to create opportunity for our amazing young people. But it also needs a politics that is prepared to bring the country together rather than drive it apart. It needs politics that will confront the politics of us versus them, and also the culture of fear and blame. That is the standard by which the First Minister will be judged, and it's the standard by which this Parliament should judge itself too. And I promise that we will lead, yes, an effective but also responsible opposition, because that too is our duty. The purpose of this Parliament is not to perform for itself, but it is to serve the people of this great country. So I again congratulate John Swinney on his election today. I wish him well, and I look forward to working with him where we agree to deliver for Scotland. But more importantly, I say this to him. The real test begins now. Of course, this will be a moment to celebrate victory, but it must be more than just a celebration of victory. Now must be the moment that we focus on delivering for the people of Scotland, and we wish him well on that endeavour.
Thank you. I now call Malcolm Offord. Up to 4 minutes, please.
So on behalf of Reform UK, I wish to offer my congratulations to John Swinney on being appointed as First Minister of Scotland. It's a historic moment for him and a great responsibility for that office. Indeed, heavy is the head that wears the crown. We in opposition will always seek to find consensus where we can agree on one single issue, which is to make Scotland more successful and more prosperous. We will always seek to support policies that do that. But where we find policies that do not deliver that, We will scrutinise and challenge, and that is the role that we will take upon ourselves in this chamber. The agenda to make Scotland more successful has to deal with a number of core issues, which, of course, we debated at length during the election. There is no question that tax is too high and too complicated in Scotland. We know right now, for example, that in the NHS we have care workers managing their workflow to try and avoid being dragged into higher tax bands, and this is unnecessary and needless. So this needs to be looked at, and if the SNP come forward with solutions on that, we will be supported, because we believe we will raise more tax revenue if you reward the people of Scotland and incentivise them to do so. Similarly, our energy prices are too high, and we have policy at the moment driven by...
Vast majority of energy policy is not devolved, Malcolm. How many times do I have to see this? Oh, Maples went live.
Ideology. We will oppose that. We will scrutinise carefully the $5 billion in the budget spent in net zero policies. I think we'd all agree that the cost of living is a major component of that is energy prices. So where we can find consensus there, again, we will support. We need to get the balance right between work and welfare. The best form of welfare anyone can have is a good job. We need to help our...
Fuck off. Like I keep on saying, you're not going to force me back into work. Literally take my money off me. I don't fucking care.
Fellow citizens back into good jobs. We need to create pathways to work where we have 750,000 Scots of working age not in work. We need to help them back to work. And if that number is heading towards a million,
vast majority of us are disabled.
Our young people need support into good jobs. We need to challenge whether we should be sending 50% of young people to university. Maybe we should be thinking more about college training, apprenticeships. We need good jobs that will not be taken away by AI, where young people can make a start in life. And we have real serious jobs, whether that be a welder, gas technicians, lab technicians, care workers, etc. So
half of those you need a degree.
That we will again support. Immigration needs to be fair and controlled. And we'd urge the SNP to restore.
Not devolved. He's going to mention the local link. The reason that got rid of is so people could actually escape abusive relationships. Or downright fucking scary fucking relationships.
The local connection.
Immigration isn't devolved, Malcolm.
So we have cohesion in our local communities. And in the NHS, we know that 93% of Scots say it needs reform and that we need greater access to GPs and we need to deal with early discharge. Again, these are areas that we will support where the SNP come forward with that agenda. And in terms of value for money, I think it's interesting to note that all the parties agreed that quangos are out of control, there's too many of them, costing too much. There's also a demographic deficit. And so therefore we will support measures value for money. The idea here is the election campaign that
the majority of the democratic deficit is down in London. They could devolve things up to us and we'd probably be running them better. Citation needed, but that's just one of my theories.
We all conducted in a spirited manner. We actually did find in a number of those debates that we agree on some of these issues. So therefore, let's work together on these issues, but make no mistake, for the role of Reform UK, the 70 newly minted MSPs who've come in here with one thing and one thing only, which is to drive forward an agenda to make Scotland more successful and more prosperous, and will support any government that delivers that.
Thank you. I now call Gillian Mackay. Up to 4 minutes, please.
Thanks, Presiding Officer. I want to start by congratulating John Swinney on his election as First Minister on behalf of the Scottish Greens. It is a remarkable achievement to win a fifth term in office for the SNP. And I think it's safe to say this probably wasn't the role that the First Minister anticipated this time last session. And on behalf of my party, I want to acknowledge the sacrifices that both he and his family have made to allow him to serve Scotland. The Scottish Greens will work with his government to deliver on our priorities and deliver for the people of Scotland. The opposition parties that took that constructive approach in the last session of Parliament have grown in number, and it's clear that that is what the public expects us to do. Put simply, our constituents expect us to cooperate where we genuinely share values, even if we don't agree on every detail of policy. That doesn't mean that this government will have an easy time of it from the Greens. We will hold government to account and ask difficult questions. We need to see work quickly on childcare and free bus travel in particular, but other public services need support and reform too. We will push for this government to go further and faster, especially when it comes to tackling child poverty and the climate crisis. In the first 100 days, this government could fix some of the issues with childcare that we raised before dissolution. Ensuring that childcare is truly free at 3 would put hundreds of pounds back in the pockets of families before we move to expand free hours to 2-year-olds on what we would like to see on a universal basis. The 1140-hour entitlement is a national policy, but some families have had to move their children twice due to changes made by local authorities. Working with councils to ensure cross-boundary placements are able to happen would support the choice of families. We need to work together to put the NHS on a sustainable footing, to talk about how we support councils to deliver the services that they want to deliver, and we finally have to scrap and replace the council tax. Ultimately, in the first 100 days of this government, we need to see tangible work to deliver on the cost of living crisis that will make people's lives cheaper for the long term, supporting the climate and making a more welcoming and outward-looking Scotland. The Scottish Greens will not shy away from holding the new government to account, but we look forward to working with the First Minister to deliver for the people of Scotland.
Thank you. I now call Russell Finlay. Up to 4 minutes, please.
Presiding Officer, I and my party sincerely congratulate John Swinney on his re-election as First Minister. I commit to working constructively with him and his ministers when offers to do so are made in good faith. Now, John Swinney and I fundamentally disagree on the future direction of Scotland. In my opening remarks, I set out a vision for a prosperous Scotland at the heart of the United Kingdom. Now, John Swinney isn't short of people offering him his advice, but I asked him to hear me out about what I believe should be our collective focus. People desperately need some respite from endless SNP and Labour tax rises. Growth and prosperity flow from educating our young people, creating opportunity, nurturing aspiration, rewarding success, and giving businesses the space and the support to thrive. And economic growth is going to be absolutely critical. And that's because there's a looming £5 billion black hole in Scotland's public finances. Throughout the election campaign, I repeatedly warned about the potential impact of this vast and impending deficit. Others didn't want to talk about it. But with the election now behind us, there's no escaping from this hard reality. To plug the gap between revenues raised and government spending commitments, John Swinney is likely to do one of two things, possibly both. One, cut funding for public services, and number two, raise taxes. Both of these would be a mistake. Don't cut frontline services. Cut the waste. Cut the quangos. Treat taxpayers' money with respect. And cut a benefits bill that is unaffordable and unsustainable.
I would say, right, I was saying, do it, take away my money, see what fucking happens. You ain't forcing me back into work. But on a more positive note, leave me the fuck alone. Do you think it's fun being on benefits? It's not. I live by the amazing super hubby. He is a credit to this household. That man is a fucking miracle worker. I don't know how he fucking manages it. His joints are a mess. He's getting damn close to my level of gobness in his knees. And he he is amazing with the money that comes into this household. He really is. And we still managed to get away, have little holidays just here in Scotland. I'm the only one in the household with a passport. He is a credit. I love him desperately. But if they start so benefit my benefit, Holly up here, thank God. That's the ones he's talking about here wanting to cut. Fuck you, Russell. Seriously, fuck you. Leave me the fuck alone. It's bad enough that Glaswegian ghoul's down in Caxton House. Universal credit as well, by the way, for the household. That one hasn't been devolved yet. It should be. It really should. Will they? Probably not. Because Westminster fucking sucks.
And on taxes, I say this: no more. Scots already pay almost £2 billion a year in income tax than they would for doing the same job elsewhere in the United Kingdom.
The vast majority of those people paying the higher taxes are fine with it, Russell. Don't get me wrong, there's outliers who kind of moan about it. We get better services for it up here. Fully nationalised water. Brilliant. I want free public transport. Electric buses would be nice. It would. No, like I want the buses here in Glasgow to be publicly owned. Am I going to get it? We will see after the local elections up here next May.
Businesses have been hit with sky-high rate bills that will force some to cut jobs or cease trading altogether. Now, Mr Swinney might not choose to listen to me, but he should listen to Scotland's business leaders who repeatedly warn that you cannot tax your way to economic growth. John Swinney knows this to be true. But
we would tax our way to better public services.
Of the public finances, my fear is that he will remain distracted. He's already said that he'll make the first vote of this Parliament a demand for another referendum. Even without a majority, that's his intent. He knows that the people of Scotland don't want this, yet we heard it again from him today. So for the sake of Scotland, drop it, Mr Swinney. Put country before party. End the politics of grievance. Stop blaming others for the many problems made by the SNP over 2 decades. Govern for all of Scotland. Presiding officer, my party will continue to stand up for hard-working Scots struggling to pay the bills. We will be honest about the hard choices that lie ahead, and we will work tirelessly to hold this government to account. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you very much indeed, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, we each of us, the 129 MSPs sworn into this Parliament last week, and all the former MSPs that I see scattered in the public gallery, know what it feels like to be elected to serve your community. It is a pretty awesome and wonderful experience. I can only imagine what it must feel like to be elected to serve your country, to lead it. I congratulate, therefore, John Swinney. This is an immense moment of personal pride to him, I know, but it will be to his family and his friends in the gallery today, and I congratulate all of them. More than a quarter of a century ago, the architects of this chamber, of this Parliament, of the precepts and all of the rules that we follow in this place, agreed that this was a building to be forged around consensus, around the pursuit of respectful compromise where it could be found. All too often we have fallen short of that ideal, and as I said in the closing hours of the last Parliament, the promise of this new session is something where we should reach for that compromise where we can find it. Because right now, trust in politics is at an all-time low. People are tired and they're frustrated. They are right to be, because they look to this chamber for answers about why they can't get their operation, why their child's classroom is not as good as it used to be, or why their education standards are falling down the international league tables, why they can't get access to care at the first time of asking. And yet they've seen the division and the rancour that holds back so much of this chamber. We owe it to them to try and lay as much of that aside as possible. I said throughout the campaign that the change that Scotland really needs is a change of government, and I still believe that to my fingertips. But while the question of who governs us is now settled, I recognise that the SNP will control this Parliament for the next 5 years, and I make an undertaking to them that where we can, Liberal Democrat MSPs will strive to get things done, because that is what we got elected to do. And this is where I lean into the words of an unlikely supporter of the Liberal Democrats. When Kemi Badenoch said that you think of a Liberal Democrat as somebody who turns up and fixes your church roof. Guilty as charged, presiding officer. That is exactly what we stand for in our communities. We sweat the small stuff, like who takes out the bins or sorts of potholes, but we will always reach for policy that deals with the big issues of our time, like the crisis in our social care service, in our health service, the crisis in our educational institutions, both higher education, primary and secondary.
Lib Dem.
We will reach for policy that...
This is Alex Cole-Hamilton. He's the leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. Yeah. No matter where they are, they all sound the same, don't they? It's fucking mental. I bet the Lib Dem... Oh, did she get back in? I assume she got back in. Poor wee lonely Jane.
helps people half a world away that we may never meet, because that is what Liberal Democrats fundamentally believe, that we are communitarians, both in the local communities that we are elected to serve, but also in the global community in which we find ourselves. This is a proud day for John Swinney. And I'm sure that I take him at his word when he says he will look for consensus, and I will offer that where we can find it. But we're not afraid to say no, as well as we have done many times in the past. John F. Kennedy said once to a White House Correspondents' Dinner that no republic can succeed or administration can survive without fierce debate and criticism, and we will offer that when it is merited. It will sometimes be fierce, but it will always be liberal. But we will never be big enough, too big, to reach for the consensus that improves the lives of the people that gave us our instructions and sent us to this chamber. So I congratulate him and his party today and offer that commitment to reach for consensus where we can find it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, I guess.
And for up to 10 minutes, I now call on Scotland's new First Minister, John Swinney.
Presiding Officer, it's a profound honour to accept Parliament's nomination for the office of First Minister, and I thank Parliament for its support, and I thank the leaders of the opposition parties for the generous comments that they have made. I realise that they will have their criticisms to make. I'm sure there will be many of them in the years to come, but I look forward also, and I will cover more of this in what I say today, to working collaboratively to advance the interests of the people of Scotland with others. I commit myself today to upholding the standards and the ideals of this Parliament, as I have done throughout the 27 years in which I have had the privilege to serve as a member of this Parliament. And I commit myself to lead a government which meets the aspirations of the people that sent us here. Public service demands so much of all of us. And as we begin this parliamentary session, I pay tribute to the commitment of all members in being prepared to serve the people of Scotland. Although we volunteer for this task, we do so knowing that our public service has an implication for those close to us. I'm immensely grateful to all of those who have helped me to reach this point today, of whom there are too many to mention, but a large number of them are here in the gallery today. A particular burden is carried by my family, who, as Alex Cole-Hamilton has mentioned, might reasonably have expected me to be slightly more available for them than I am these days. To each of them, I express my thanks for their love and their support. Every day, I'm supported in what I do by my wife Elizabeth, who demonstrates a strength, a tenacity a determination in the face of increasing adversity and challenge that is awe-inspiring. Elizabeth's approach to life is of itself a very valuable example of how to act to any First Minister, especially her First Minister. I literally cannot offer myself to be the First Minister of Scotland without the sacrifices that Elizabeth is prepared to make, and I acknowledge and thank her for that this afternoon. Today, I feel many of the same emotions as when I first became First Minister 2 years ago. The same sense of humility, the same profound awareness of the weight of responsibility and also the remarkable privilege of holding this office. But today is very different from the moment that I stood here 2 years ago to accept office as First Minister. I stand here today at the start of a new Parliament with a resounding personal mandate from the people of Scotland. I offered the people of Scotland reliable, trusted and experienced leadership in turbulent times, and today I pledge to provide that to my country. The people have chosen a government that is firmly on their side, a government that listens to them and turns their personal priorities into national ones, and a government that acts decisively on the breadth and scale needed to meet those challenges. That is the kind of government I intend to lead. I have ambitious goals for this parliamentary session: to ease the cost of living crisis by expanding on what is already the best package of support in the United Kingdom, to ensure the NHS is protected and easy to access, always there for people when and where they need it, to ensure cohesion in our communities and to protect our environment, to grow our economy and create opportunity across the country, and to make concrete, tangible differences that people can see and feel in their homes, in their communities, in their day-to-day lives. I look forward to working with members of this chamber to achieve all of these goals. I'm aware that we'll be working in a much different Parliament than the ones that have preceded it. 1 and 2 of my fellow members are new, and I recognise that while my party is by far and away the largest in this chamber, we do not have a majority on our own. But I remain firmly of the view that when we engage in constructive dialogue, we are capable of tremendous progress. I believe I can achieve a majority for every ambition I have for this Parliament. I look forward to working with many here to do so. That, of course, includes the question of Scotland's constitutional future, on which I recognise there are profound differences of opinion. But the people have now elected the largest pro-independence majority in the history of devolution. The Scottish people have yet again made their wishes known loud and clear. They want a more secure and a more prosperous independent nation, one where decisions are made not in Westminster but here in Scotland. My government will continue to seek to abide by those wishes, and again, I look forward to working with many in this chamber to do so. But independent or not, I want to make one thing clear to Parliament and to the public today. I will work to be a First Minister for all of Scotland, a First Minister that works to bring people together with a strong sense of national purpose. The country I seek to build is a country where everyone feels accepted and able to contribute to our national story, a country where we seek to bring communities together, a country where we act to heal division, a country where we seek to find common ground. The election result proves that the people of Scotland believe theirs is a country of boundless potential, a country that can be more prosperous, more equal and more confident in her future, a country of fair, well-paid work and of vibrant, multicultural, safe communities, a country that cares for its natural resources and sees the transition to clean energy as both an environmental necessity and an economic opportunity, and a country that puts our collective prosperity back into the communities that work for it. They want Scotland to realise that potential, and they have tasked us with working together to make that case. Presiding Officer, the idea of working together is where...
Please leave Rosebank and Jackdaw alone. Just leave them there. Just fuck them. Just they don't exist. You don't need to be using them. Talk to Westminster. See if you can get energy devolved. That might be an idea.
I would like to conclude my remarks today. At the dawn of the 7th session of the Scottish Parliament, I am now one of only 4 members from the original class of '99, and of course you also, Presiding Officer, are one of that class. From that vantage point, let me offer this reflection to the many new members. This is a very exciting time in any Parliament. All of us rightly feel the privilege of having been chosen by the people of Scotland to represent them, and we are all full of anticipation for the exciting journey that lies ahead. But it will not be long before we have to return to the people to explain to them what we have done for them. And if there is one thing I have learned over my years in public service, it is this. When the 5-year term ends, it is those who can look their constituents in the eye and say they have achieved things for them who win re-election. All too often in parliaments, I've watched members celebrate when bold proposals are blocked, seemingly for political expediency rather than for any substantial concerns. There was a time when even I thought that negative politics worked into the bargain. But I'm standing here today having won a resounding mandate from the people of Scotland because in this election my party offered a vision of hope, ambition and optimism. And now, Presiding Officer, I offer to work across party lines to deliver our agenda. By electing a Parliament of minorities, the people have given us a specific instruction to work together. Voters value cooperation among their politicians. They want to see more of it. And in this Parliament,
I think some of the people in this chamber are going to be wreckers. I will be keeping an eye on them. Don't worry, I'll be keeping an eye on the SNP as well. Doing my due diligence, as always. So, yes. Let's see what happens in this Parliament, shall we?
I will work to see more of it too. Presiding Officer, I gratefully accept the opportunity to serve as First Minister. It is the greatest privilege of my life, and I promise to work every day to repay the trust that the people of Scotland have placed in me.
Oh, he's shaking their hands. Don't know why.
Thank you, colleagues. That now concludes the selection of the First Minister. It's now time to move on to the next item of business, which will be an urgent question. Now, in order to get as many people in as possible, and a number of people who have supplementaries, I prefer short and succinct questions and answers to match. Adam Harley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it's had with Police Scotland, local authorities and football stakeholders following the disorders seen in Glasgow city centre last weekend.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As the First Minister has stated, the Scottish Government utterly condemns the incidents of violence, vandalism and antisocial behaviour that took place on Saturday. Whilst the vast majority of fans are well behaved, it is clear that when a minority are not, the impacts on policing and a range of other services is enormous, and it is the taxpayer that foots the bill. We fully support Police Scotland, and I have sent my best wishes to the officers injured in the disorder whilst helping someone with a medical emergency. Ministers have been regularly updated on events, and the Scottish Government has engaged with Police Scotland, Glasgow City Council and SPFL, and incoming ministers will do so again. They will make clear that governing bodies and individual clubs must step up and use their influence to help tackle this continuing misconduct.
Yeah, we don't need to, we don't need to get too bogged down with some of the policies that will be getting talked about now. It's all right. I've already watched this. Basically, they're talking about what happened for the match for Celtic winning the league. Oops. I wasn't at the game. I was listening to it. I can't watch it. I can't afford to pay for it. I know Kev is not live, so I'll just refresh that. No. Oh, no. Yeah, I had it paused. There we go. Yeah, not live. Was it much later I put stuff? Eh. I will say thank you to political teacher. Do not worry. I might actually just put it in the chat, not the chat, the comments.
Given his popularity in the Labour Party, if Andy Burnham wins the by-election in Makersfield, he will almost certainly become the next Prime Minister. But what sort of Prime Minister would Andy Burnham be? Well, on this question, I think he's signalling all over the place at the moment.
Oh, fucking hell. Right, the comments are right at the bottom. I'll get them later.
Comforting, but I worry that I'm really buying into him on an emotional level. That part of me really wants to see hope, to believe that change is possible in Britain. And the emotional part of me is...
Oh, there we go. Everyone go and follow Political Teacher. They are really quite good. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you could join them. He's got 8,000 people. Nice.
Latching onto that, but I have misgivings. So let's talk about the hope first. I think what's hopeful about Burnham is that he certainly provides an opportunity for the narrative in our public life to be transformed. Burnham is somebody that can very clearly articulate a message. He is gesturing to the left. He's clearly, if he wins,
not anymore, he isn't,
going to be a huge threat to reform. And a big part of my hope comes from the fact that I am really concerned about reform getting into power. I think that their agenda is not going to be beneficial to working people. In fact, quite the opposite. As I've set out elsewhere, Nigel Farage is very much a Thatcherite. The policy agenda that reform would pursue in office is going to benefit the rich. It's not going to benefit ordinary working people. But I accept that many people watching this video won't believe that. I'm happy to have an argument with you another time about that. So part of the reason I really want to support Burnham is that he's going to be so much better than Keir Starmer. He's going to be able to tell a story about what Labour is about, that it is a party that is interested in transformational change, putting ordinary working people at the heart. And I think that's probably going to be enough for Labour to put themselves well in contention for the next election, and it probably, under Burnham, would put Labour odds on to win next time. Quite a bold thing to say, but I think that is just how dramatic Burnham's effect could be. But of course, there are difficulties there. It remains the case that people are very disenchanted with mainstream politics, very disenchanted with both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, and that Labour at the last election didn't really have much of a electoral base. They had a temporary coalition of voters, a loveless landslide that was enough to win them this huge majority on just 33.7% of the vote. But it was a majority that was built on sand, as we saw as Labour declined in the polls. So Burnham would be coming into office and he'd have 2 years, maybe a bit more, to cobble together not just a temporary electoral coalition, but to start to build a base for the Labour Party that can sustain them not just in this election, but in future elections. And that is a big ask in the circumstances, because people are quite rightly put off by the same two parties. And so what Burnham really needs to do in office is to start a journey that will allow him at the next election to pledge a much more radical manifesto where he pledges to fundamentally transform Britain. I'm saying you'll have to do that at the next election. I mean, he could, I suppose, rip up the manifesto and say, look, we've got a huge majority. I'm claiming a kind of doctor's mandate to shift direction fundamentally from some of the aspects of the manifesto.
He has to be able to get it through the Commons first and the Lords. He's already went back on some of this. He's already said that he's not going to be doing some of the stuff that I would hope for. Obviously, I knew this. I kept on saying this. The man is a fucking Blairite. Please remember that, everyone. Blairite. That's all you need to know, really.
Manifesto. But I don't think he can go too far down that road, because it would be seen to be going back on the mandate delivered by the election. There are lots of members of Parliament, Labour MPs, who are on the right of the party that wouldn't want what Burnham is, the path that Burnham wants to go down. So partly he's going to have to manage a difficult parliamentary party. And also the public might well be put off by too radical a departure by an unelected Prime Minister. So I think there are problems with that. But I do think he's going to have to signal very, very strongly a new sense of direction. And we're seeing some of that. There is in Burnham clearly a critique of neoliberalism. He talks about the failed Thatcher consensus. He talks about 40 years of failure. And he gestures in the direction of a new politics where the state would have a much bigger role, where public ownership and control would have a much bigger role. And he mentions some of the things that he's done in Manchester, such as bringing the buses into public control. Not nationalisation, not quite in Manchester, but bringing them into public control, creating a coherent transport system in Manchester. So that's the direction of travel. But I have misgivings. I have lots of misgivings. First of all, Burnham was very much a Blairite back in the day, was in favour of things like public-private partnerships, which failed in the National Health Service, voted in favour of the war in Iraq, was a member of Labour Friends of Israel.
Yes.
And there's talk about Josh Simons of Labour Together, the guy that connived to get Keir Starmer into office. He's the guy that stood down, right, to give him a seat. There's talk of Josh Simons moving into number 10 to help Burnham. And that would give me massive misgivings.
Massive understatement.
Burnham government. It's also clear that Burnham has already caved in to pressure from the bond markets. He said in recent days that he will stick to Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules.
What fucking good are you then, Burnham? Really? If you're still sticking to the same fucking economic policies as Rachel, what good are you? Seriously, what good are you?
And so clearly Burnham is somebody, at least for the time being, who feels like there are...
I won't be as blatant as Kev, by the way.
...constraints that are real on his leadership. And I think that's going to inevitably constrain Burnham, at least for the first few years of his time in office, because he's going to feel constrained both politically and economically by the manifesto and by the straitjacket of the fiscal rules imposed by Rachel Reeves, which he said he's not going to reverse. So that gives me huge misgivings, because really what is needed goes well beyond what would be possible with that kind of constraint on Andy Burnham. So it's not a very helpful video, but I guess the reason I'm recording it is because I think the tension in my own mind between wanting to feel hopeful and at times actually feeling hopeful by some of the rhetoric coming out of Andy Burnham gets me to the edge, really, of thinking, God, I should just join the Labour Party again and get behind this guy. So I've got that little
Don't do
on my
it.
shoulder, whilst at the same time the rational part of my brain is saying to me, look, you were fooled personally by Keir Starmer once, a guy that gestured in a left-wing direction only to be, well, not dragged to the right in the case of Keir Starmer, but moved to the right, because that's what he was always going to do. I don't quite have those misgivings about Burnham. I don't think he's actively lying to people right now. My worry about Burnham is that if his feet aren't held to the fire by mass movements within broader society, the trade unions, the Green Party, if he doesn't feel real pressure, the only pressure he's going to be getting is from the other direction, from the media class, from the establishment, from the civil service, from the bond markets. And that's going to push him in the other direction. So there we go. There's a kind of, trepidation. But look, Burnham is going to be better than Starmer. I don't want this video to be, signalling that I don't support Burnham taking over. I think, where I'm at with this is I don't really support people who are saying Burnham getting elected would be actually actively bad because it would resuscitate the Labour Party. And what we need, this is what people in the Green Party say, is for the Labour Party to crash and burn so we can replace them. I don't think I fit into that mould. I think I really want Burnham to succeed. But my worry is that I'm being horrendously naive and that Burnham will behave like many Labour leaders have before and will gesture left but govern in the interests of the people that have got the biggest pockets. So that's my worry. So I haven't really come to a conclusion here, and therefore I'm genuinely interested in what you think. Is Burnham going to be the saviour of the Labour Party? Well, I think I've been pretty clear that I think he can do that. Actually, going into the next election, I think they're much more likely to win with him as leader. But the bigger question really is, how is the guy going to govern? What policy agenda is he going to pursue in office? And is that going to be enough? Not only to see off reform, not only to build this strong electoral coalition to sustain Labour in office, but to genuinely transform the country and build a new consensus that is going to be with us for a period of time, just like the Attlee consensus, just like the Thatcher consensus. So let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Chelsea's recruitment since Todd Bowley and Blueco bought the club has been nothing short of exceptional.
No. There we go.
Given his popularity in the Labour Party, if Andy Burnham wins the by-election and make it...
Don't worry, I'm not doing it again. I'm just going to put a comment in. Now I borrowed this. Where are we? Where are we? Fucking hell. Quite far down. Fuck. Where is it? Ah! There we go. That one guy. Okay.
So how do you think that Sinn Féin can work with the SNP and Plaid Cymru towards achieving your respective goals of seeing your nations become independent? What does that kind of look like for you, I suppose, is the question.
Yeah, well, I suppose the dust is still
John
settling
Finucane,
on the
everyone.
election results. I think it was important, certainly from our point of view, that we wanted to reach out and not just congratulate, but to say that we are here to work with them, whether that's in Scotland or in Wales. There will obviously be many areas of work that are very specific to each individual devolved administration, but there will be issues that overlap and require one voice speaking. No doubt speaking with a force to push back against what Westminster tries to do. I know certainly in this part of the world you can say with authority that whether it's Brexit, whether it's austerity, we have always been an afterthought when it comes to Westminster. We saw that in the King's speech this week, where I think if there was any reference to Ireland, it may have been a couple of words tagged on at the very end. So we all have our challenges that emanate from Westminster. There are structures under the Good Friday Agreement that have the institutions naturally meeting. But I think where there is that shared purpose, where there is that approach and recognition that there is something beyond Westminster, then I think there will be natural opportunities. And I would expect certainly from our institutions here that they will be reaching out and working as closely with their colleagues in Wales and Scotland as possible. And I think it's an exciting phase to be in, to see exactly what that looks like. And I think under the leadership of Reen and John and Michelle, I expect that will be done very well.
Well, John Swinney is obviously planning to request another independence referendum from the UK government. Of course, there's no expectation at all that will be accepted. Scotland has gone to Westminster a few times on a number of occasions to try and secure a second referendum, and they've always kind of been pushed away. I wonder how Sinn Féin and this kind of concept of what we like to call a bit of a Celtic alliance can make a difference if and when that rejection comes again. I mean, how can the parties come together to kind of respond to that rejection? Will you have the SNP's back?
In a collective Celtic voice, tell us, shout, give us our fucking countries, please. No, fuck the please, give us our fucking country. I would have wanted turnout and but more SNP and more Greens in Holyrood. I didn't get my wish, unfortunately.
Essentially, in that circumstance,
I think that we are very pro-democratic in that mandates need to be respected. The SNP have shown time and time again that they have a consistent mandate. And I think that there is only so long that those in power in Westminster can ignore that reality. We are obviously in a slightly different position because we have the route to our referendum contained within the Good Friday Agreement. And, you know, it's an internationally recognised and legally binding document. But that doesn't mean to say we're not without our own obstacles and hurdles to overcome, especially by those who refuse to recognise the change that has happened and is continuing to happen all around us. So I think we are very clear that we come from a position where we respect self-determination. We respect those who want to take charge of their own affairs. And whilst respecting it is a matter for the Scottish people, we will always be supportive in that ground and in that space.
I think you mentioned there how you have that route to a referendum that's kind of entrenched in the Good Friday Agreement, and one of the frustrating things that's happening in Scotland is we constantly keep asking what is that route to a referendum, you know, beyond this Section 30 going to Westminster cap in hand and them just saying no. So do you think that one of the things that does need to be resolved is Scotland and perhaps Wales as well at some stage? They need to have that route set out, how a referendum is achieved again?
Yes, absolutely. Again, I don't think anybody should fear democracy. This is not a populist topical question that has arisen one day and will
We're
go away the
colonies.
next. This is of such significance that it isn't going away. I think even those who are opposed to it in London recognise that. And no matter how much they try to wish away this problem, if anything, it just grows in momentum and force as time goes by in the individual context of Wales, of Scotland, and particularly here in Ireland. So I think certainly as a respectful outsider looking at the future of Scotland, I think that it is incumbent upon the British government to recognise the reality of where politics is, where it has been for a long time, and to set out that path where the question can be put to the Scottish people again. A lot has changed, and you don't need me to come on and educate your listeners around this, but a lot has changed since the last referendum in Scotland. I know certainly in Ireland, there are those outside of the Republican and nationalist world who want to see a future within the European Union. We have that unencumbered route back into the benefits that Europe certainly brought to this island, and that is through a unity referendum. So all of the benefits that people can see are there, and that's why we have been consistent in asking for the British government to grasp this. I mean, 10 years ago, I think there would be very few people who would have thought what we are talking about today would ever come to pass. And that's a relatively short time ago. Where will we be in 5 years from now? Where will we be in 10 years from now? And for me, it is highly irresponsible. It's a dereliction of political duty not to recognise what has happened and plan for the future. Plan to, in a mature, responsible fashion, put the question to the people of Wales when they wanted, to the people of Scotland when they wanted, to the people of Ireland when they wanted, as to where they see their own future being served best. And to essentially put your hands over your eyes and cover your ears is simply not good enough. It won't wash. And quite frankly, I could say that none of our own jurisdictions will accept that in the time ahead.
Do you think then that there is kind of an advantage to strengthen numbers then with your kind of three parties, being able to go up to whoever is prime minister? I was going to say Keir Starmer, but who knows at this point who it's going to be? Yeah. But do you think there's an advantage there for the three parties to be having a conversation with the prime minister and saying, look, you've got to take this reality seriously? And you've got to do something about it. Do you think that that's going to be more powerful than, say, John Swinney just going up on his own there?
I think certainly there's potential for that scenario that you've outlined. Look, we all have to be respectful to our own approaches as to how we do this. And I know certainly us in Sinn Féin will always be very respectful to, what we see and hear is the best approach that perhaps the SNP will take or Plaid Cymru will take. But where there is the ability to advance the argument on a collective basis, we will not be found wanting at all. As I said, we have very good relations with the SNP. I've spoken at Plaid Cymru's annual conference myself in Cardiff. I know that we meet regularly, and I think the meeting this week at that leadership level was very important. I think it does show that where there is an opportunity, that opportunity will not be missed, certainly by any of the leadership of those parties. And I think that's important. As I say, we certainly don't want to do anything that is counterproductive, but we also want to advance. I think that pro-independence and pro-self-determination argument when we can. We are certainly in the middle of that in Ireland, but the election results from last week, I think, have added a really positive and energetic momentum to this conversation.
Given his popularity in the Labour Party, if Andy Burnham wins the by-election in Makersfield, he will almost certainly become the next Prime Minister. But what sort of Prime Minister would Andy Burnham be?
That was weird. Right. Hanta or Ebola? Hanta or Ebola? No, do Hanta first, it's older. That one will do.
कोरोना से भी ज्यादा दर्दनाक मौत देने वाले हंता वायरस से फिलहाल डरने की जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि 99% केसेस में ये सीधा
Okay, not in English. Oh, God.
Autopsy report has confirmed hantavirus to be the cause of death for Betsy Arikara, who is the wife of actor Gene Hackman. Now, what is hantavirus, and why is it that many people have never heard of this condition? Well, it's a virus that's spread through contact with rodents, rodent feces, rodent urine, and at first it causes flu-like symptoms, fever, headache, body aches, but eventually the disease can progress to respiratory distress syndrome, where the lungs become so inflamed they fill up with fluid. This can rapidly lead to respiratory failure and death. In fact, the disease has a case fatality rate of 30 to 60%. So that sounds really bad, right? Like, how is this disease not front page news like COVID-19? Well, the disease cannot be spread from humans to humans. It's only spread through contact with rodents. Because of this, it will never become a global pandemic, as was the case with COVID-19. Autopsy report has confirmed hantavirus to be the cause of death for Betsy Arikara, who is the wife of actor Gene Hackman. Now,
I didn't realise that. Fuck. Yeah, it doesn't. You get it through contact from rats, essentially. So what you have to do is basically set out a fuck ton of rat traps. Yeah. Quite a lot of them. Test the rats, then euthanize them. No cure. Just hope that you don't pass. Yeah. Okay. Update.
So there's been an outbreak of hantavirus on a cruise ship, and that's led to the death of some passengers. So what do we know about this virus?
What is hantavirus?
Well, hantavirus, it's named after a river in South Korea, and that word, hantavirus, really describes a sort of family of viruses. Around 20 viral species have been identified according to the World Health Organization. It's not just one infection. It's really serious, but it's also relatively rare, and it's linked to exposure to rats and mice. The risk is typically highest when someone's doing something like, for example, cleaning out a building that's had a rodent infestation. So most of the human cases are reported in rural settings, such as forests, fields or farms, where rodents are present, and that means the opportunities for exposure are greatest.
Where could this outbreak have come from?
That's a really, really important question, and the answer is we don't yet know. All the cases are linked to this cruise ship, the MV Hondius, which set sail from the very southern tip of Argentina at the very beginning of April. But the first two fatalities, who were a Dutch couple, they're reported to have travelled through South America before boarding the ship. Now, that's really important because it's possible that one or both of them came into contact with the virus during their travels. And one version of the virus, known as Andes virus, that's been identified as causing infection in humans in both Argentina and in Chile. So, for example, in late 2018, there was an Argentinian outbreak that was traced back to people who'd all gone to the same party. A single person with the virus led to 34 confirmed cases and 11 deaths.
How does it spread? Is it airborne?
Yeah, it is slightly airborne, so it's transmitted actually by rodents, typically rats and mice, through their dried urine and the droppings, which are then blown into the air and inhaled. That's where it is slightly airborne. So mostly, yes, it is spread from rodents, but there have been these relatively rare cases of human-to-human transmission of this virus known as the Andes virus.
What are the symptoms?
Well, the virus can cause two really severe illnesses. The first is called hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, and it often starts with sort of flu-like symptoms, really. You can get fatigue, fever, muscle aches, then followed by headaches, dizziness, chills, upset stomachs. But then, this is where it starts to get very serious, you get respiratory symptoms develop. So, for example, breathlessness. And the mortality rate associated with this type of illness is around 38%. So more than a third of the people, according to the Centre for Disease Control in the United States, will die if they get that type of the virus. The second illness is called hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, and this is even more severe and primarily affects the kidneys. So later symptoms can include low blood pressure, internal bleeding, and also acute kidney failure. The mortality rate for this version is 50%, so half the people who get it are likely to die.
Who should be more worried? Is it more dangerous if an old person catches it?
Well, obviously, if you're older or frail, or even if you have underlying health conditions, any sort of serious infection like this could have devastating consequences. So it's pretty serious, however old or young you are.
How do you test for it?
So there are currently some cases that have been confirmed and some that are still suspected, but the way you test for it is what's called a PCR test. Now, people may remember these from the COVID pandemic when you might have a swab inside your cheek or up your nose. What it is a molecular biology technique that can quickly amplify or copy specific DNA segments, and that can create millions or even billions of copies from a very, very minute sample. And that allows, in other words, genetic testing.
What's the treatment if you do have it?
So there is no specific treatment or indeed vaccinations for hantavirus infections. Instead, medical teams will be supporting and treating the symptoms of the infection, things like breathlessness, for example, and that's called supportive care. So that might include everything from oxygen therapy, mechanical ventilation, antiviral treatments, even dialysis if you have the most serious version of the illness which can affect your kidneys.
So will we have another lockdown? Is this like coronavirus 2.0?
It's obviously still a really serious situation for those who remain on board the cruise ship. There must be a lot of worry about more cases emerging among the remaining passengers and the crew on board. But the World Health Organization says that currently the risk to the global population is low. But public health experts are going to continue to monitor and assess that situation. That risk assessment will be updated if they think it's necessary. So at the moment, no, I think we are a long way from a lockdown, and this really doesn't look like a coronavirus moment. It's understandable why people might worry about that. We all remember the beginning of the COVID pandemic when cruise ships in particular seemed to be vulnerable to infections like this. But I'd say we're still some way off that kind of emergency.
Do not panic. Be vigilant. Hope that they're doing tracing, not just with the patient, not with the people, but where the rodents are, essentially, and trapping them. And like I said, there is no cure. It's just basically treatment. So medical intervention, essentially, like breathing tube, all that stuff. Get on a cruise ship if you want. I'm not. No. Follow in the footsteps of your lass, I would suggest. Again, no pressure. If you want to get on a cruise, feel free to do so if you can afford it. I wouldn't recommend it anyway, even if there wasn't a chance of getting a fucking deadly disease. They are incredibly draining on global resources, and having to deal with them just for basic maintenance and looking after their passengers and staff. The amount of pollution they put back into the world ocean and stuff like that, just nah. Dr. Zach!
Top 5 reasons why I'm concerned about this Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in Uganda for the morning of May 19th, 2026. I will continue to update you when I see that it's important to do so, so make sure you're following to stay informed. Number one is the fact that the virus that's causing this Ebola outbreak is the Bunibunyo virus, which has no approved vaccine or disease-modifying treatment, with a high case fatality rate of about 25 to 40%. Number two is that the World Health Organization acknowledged that this outbreak has likely been going on for weeks undetected because we already have hundreds of cases and over 100 deaths. Keep in mind that Ebola doesn't spread asymptomatically. It has to be through direct contact with bodily fluids from somebody who is actively sick. But number three is that this is not just affecting remote rural areas, but it's also affecting more densely populated areas like Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Kampala in Uganda. Number four is the fact that healthcare workers have been infected with Ebola, which means that there has been a lack of infection control, potentially from low personal protective equipment available and strained healthcare systems. And number five is the fact that the United States has not had the same type of foothold in the situation because we left the WHO, as well as dismantled USAID, which would have been tremendous in helping contain this outbreak. And so please talk with your legislators about these issues, because we really need to get back to where we were prior to RFK Jr. being Health and Human Services Secretary. Please share this information widely and follow to stay informed. Here are the top 5 reasons why I'm concerned about this Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and
I've been going over nearly my 2.5 hours, right? So my pain and stiffness is, I'm only being able to do 2 hours each night now. I don't know. Watch this space. Hopefully, I'll start feeling better because I finished taking antibiotics. I had bronchitis, so I had a lung infection. I had a 5-day course of amoxicillin. So hopefully, I'll get back. I'll get better, and I'll be able to do like 3, maybe 4 hour streams. Watch this space. So I think I'll actually read out now. Sorry, YouTube comrades. It's ever a slog to get up to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Tell your mum to subscribe to me. Fuck it. Just tell anyone and everyone you come in contact with. Follow this mad Scottish woman. She can be quite fun when she's ranting. Andy Burnham's not going to be any better. Excuse me. So we'll read out Twitch, comrades. I've already decided. Unless there's someone else going. Still the same. Normal will be finishing up soon. Let's go and say hi to my favourite door kicker, Dargesh. Oh, nah, I'll bring it up first. Let's go and say hello to Dargesh, shall we? They are playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. There he's there. Hello, Dargesh. Stay hydrated. Self-care is good care. Take your meds. Stay based. Free Palestine. And watch out for a virus.
God damn it. That's 3 deaths. That's 3 deaths. That actually sounds like a pretty interesting drink, Kitten Cupcake. I had him down to the last little bit, and I got a little bit greedier than I wanted.
All right. Move in.
European soda? Hit. What the fuck? Okay.
No, I'll actually be getting back to health whenever I can land on him.
It's essentially Wednesday now.
Ow.
Hi everyone.
If I land a hit on him. Alright. So this, if I die here, it'll be death number 4. Oh! Hey, Medcat, how are ya?